number one guy I'd want to have a beer with in the world of celebrity is, it's such a tough one because I'm not in that world. So like I'm like, who do I love the most?
This is whoever like you.
It would probably be Kevin Smith. It would probably be Kevin Smith because he's, anyone that listens to this show knows I'm a huge fan. I mean, one of the reasons I started, this show out of all the other shows I've done, he is one of my influences with his podcasts.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I'm your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. Before we get to this week's guest, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. I want to remind everyone that coming up on October 7th, 2016 is our next live show. That's right. We're going to be performing live at the Producers Club in New York City, Hell's Kitchen. We're coming to you, baby. This is the unofficial late night of New York Comic Con, because New York Comic Con starts October 6th. October 7th, we'll be at the Producers Club. We're going to be on after the screening for Once Upon a Time, the Rock Opera. So make sure you purchase your tickets at indietix.net, or for a quick direct link, tickets.awesomepodcast.com. Tickets are $15 online, $17 at the door. And if you happen to go to the screening of Once Upon a Time, the Rock Opera, you get a coupon code called Double Trouble, I believe. Double check the website. And you can save $5 and only pay $10 to come see an awesome night of late night action. It's not just Everything is Awesome. It's also Once Upon a Wine, the podcast. And we're forming to blend the shows together and make it one big, enormous late night after party. So make sure you check that out at tickets.awesomepodcast.com or indietix.net. That's indietix.net. I'm so excited. We're going to have Rachel Leishman from the Fordcast, a Harrison Ford podcast, on. She's a actress. She's an improv comedian. She's a podcaster. I'm just super excited to sit down and talk with her. We have a game planned with her. It's going to be so much fun. We also are going to have the cast of Once Upon a Time, the Rock Opera on the show to sing some songs from the Rock Opera. Rumor has it they're going to let us into their world of Theater is Coming with their Game of Thrones musical. So I'm so excited for this New York show. Hell's Kitchen, right where Daredevil's from, the Defenders, Jessica Jones. Oh my gosh, so much. We're going to be playing in the very area. We're going to be off Broadway. We're going to be mere blocks away from where late night greats have been before. I'm so excited for this. And if, I hope you can come out to make it, and if not, we'll have the show up probably the week after the 7th, so that you guys can listen in on the awesomeness that was. I also want to remind you guys that you could help support this show so that we can do some things like this more often. This New York Comic Con show, and we are charging money for the show, but at the end of the day, we're not trying to make money. This show is costing a lot more than any other show I've put together, and I'm doing it because I really want to say that I've done a late night show in New York. I really want to go to the Comic-Con and be part of unofficially that world. I would love to do more of it. There's Walker Stalker cons that come around. There's Wizard Worlds that come around this area. And I would love to go to some of the Jersey cons, some of the New York cons. Maybe travel up and down the East Coast a little bit and do more live shows. Love doing this. And I hope that you love hearing it. And we would love to bring this show to you live because it's such a different experience. You sit down and listen to this show at home and you're listening to me and one other guy talk for anywhere from an hour to 2 hours across 2 episodes. Which is a lot of fun. I love those conversations. There's nothing like having an interesting, awesome conversation. But there's something to the live show because we get to interact with you. We play games and give prizes away and just have a good time. And it's a nice little meet and greet. So I'd love to do more of that. And you can help support us in several different ways to make it happen. Easiest way to do it is to tell a friend and leave a 5-star review on our iTunes page. So again, just simply tell a friend about Everything is Awesome. Go to awesomepodcast.com. Get some information about the show, listen to the show. Go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast. Tell your buddies to subscribe to the podcast because that helps put us in the foreground of iTunes. And if you even more of that iTunes math is those 5-star reviews. So if you could just leave a 5-star review, I'm going to try to start reading them. I say that every week, but for real, in episode 37, I will read whatever is current in our iTunes reviews. Leave 5-star reviews because that's going to help us get more ears on this show. The more ears on this show, the cooler things we can end up doing because we'll be able to secure different projects and whatnot. Another way that might be a little bit more complicated is by supporting us on Patreon. We've talked about it here and there. It's really random. Me and Jason Ashley from Too Cool for Tabletop, we went on for quite a while about Patreon, and it's weird to talk about so much because it is us shilling for money for the most part, but you get rewarded for it. You can get swag, bonus content, stuff like that. Patreon.com/awesomepodcast, or you can go to the support link on awesomepodcast.com. What Patreon does, it's kind of like an ongoing Kickstarter. You pledge at a certain level and you get something in return for it. And in turn, every dollar that is brought in is going to help make this show better, whether it's buying new equipment, whether it's securing finances to do another live show somewhere that's going to cost us money, whether it's buying swag to give to you guys, whether it's buying better servers or whatever it might be. It all goes back into the show. At this point, especially with the Patreon money, I'm not looking to make a buck with it. I'm looking to invest your money that you're investing in me into this show and make it a bigger, better project because I love doing it and I would love to sit down and talk to everyone that is on my wish list. I would love to sit down and talk to everyone, even you. And hear your awesome story. So patreon.com/awesomepodcast. And as Jason Ashley and I have said, for Too Cool for Tabletop, I'm going to steal it for Everything is Awesome too. $1 a month is not a lot of money. That's $12 a year. That's you skipping out on one meal at Burger King a year. That's you skipping out on 2 packs of cigarettes or a pack and a half of cigarettes during the course of a year. $12 a year is not a lot of money. And if everyone that listened to this show pledged $1 a month, we'd be able to cover all our hosting fees. We'd be able to expand the show beyond what we're doing now. We'd just be able to do a lot of cool things. And, hopefully you guys can afford to do that. If not more, because, that would be great. It helps us do more awesome things. But again, I understand times are tough. Not everyone has money to throw around for a dopey podcast, and I get it. And if you don't, that's okay. Because, like I said, if you tell a friend or leave a review on iTunes, a 5-star review, that helps just as much. So, let's get to the show, guys. I'm really excited to sit down and have you guys listen to part 2 of my conversation with Daniel Pierce, the Hercules of Once Upon a Time, the rock opera. The only real Hercules besides Kevin Sorbo, in my opinion. This week, we sat down and we talked about Owen and Team West Coast, voiceover work that he's been doing, and a lot more. I'm so excited for you to sit down and listen to this conversation. I think the rumor is, if you're going to be in New York Comic Con, rumor is he's going to be part of the Once Upon a Time screening and the after party. So, make sure you come out to the New York Comic Con, watch. I'm telling you, the rock opera is better than season 5 of Once Upon a Time. So come check that out. Stick around for the after party with Everything is Awesome, Once Upon a Wine. It's going to be dope. I'll talk to you next week. Next week is episode 37. Y'all know that's an important episode in my mythos. And it's going to be a double-edged sword because it's me talking about someone that I really admire. And there's certain flicks of his that really hit me emotionally. And the reason I got into Kevin Smith was because of my uncle, who is only 16 years older than me, and I'm not going to get into it now, but it's going to be a very emotional episode. If you wanted to hear the Kev that I've talked about on the show cry like a little wimpy boy, you're going to hear that. I guarantee it. I will probably shed some tears in episode 37. All happy. Well, they're tears of importance, I guess. Not all happy tears. But anyway, on to listening to my part 2 conversation with Daniel Pierce right here, only on awesomepodcast.com.
My hat goes off to your podcasting, everything, like all the elements. It's like you just got the right gears, man. It's like you're a polished swatch, man. You got.
Oh, thank you.
Your presentation, your personality, the way the beats in the show, you pick out the right people in the mix, and you get it. You just I don't think you have to think about it too much. You just put it together, and you do it.
And I pride that on just being lazy. Like, that's what it came down to when I started doing this show. Is like, do I really? All the other podcasts I've done in the last, at the time, 8 years was like, let me plan out a 2-hour show. Let's have 2 or 3 co-hosts. Like, let's be a radio show, and like, let's do all our research. And like, my interviews back in the day would literally be me having 10 questions on a sheet, read question 1, wait for answer. Don't play off what you say. Read question 2. You probably said something funny by now. I'm going to go to question 3. And like, it was just a really boring interview. And I know that's a weak point for me. So when I started this show, I was like, what am I thinking? And one of the things I said to myself was, well, if I do the research, I'm going to have questions, and I'm going to fall to my notes. What if I go in here completely blind? Like, what will happen with that? And I started with friends. Like, I started with people that were either podcasters or comedians in the Philadelphia area, or authors or whatever. And I knew a little bit about them, but I didn't have to do any research. So I still went in kind of blind. And I discovered that my strength is sitting down and just yapping for an hour or 2.
Yeah, well, that's all you need, man. Because I've come to realize, even in the educational podcast, what really is attractive or what gets you to listen to is just a good conversation between two people who can rap for a while, man. It's just and that's like I used to listen to pretty consistently Stuff You Should Know and Stuff Mom Never Told You. The whole I don't know if you ever listened to the How Stuff Works series, but it's
I've heard of it, never listened to it.
But no, they're great. They know how to bring out sort of little just unconventional knowledge that are questions that are answered, and they bring it about and they talk about it, and it's just opposing personalities that congeal on agreeable ideas and maybe sometimes differing opinions. Like, that's why Mosierns and what's his name? Kevin work so well together, because Mosier's just kind of, he's just sort of the steady drum, and then Kevin is the chatterbox.
And I still dream of having like that podcast where it's me and one of my friends who sit there and we talk and we riff and we do a little bit of improv. Mm-hmm. Like that is like my dream podcast, is basically doing Smodcast. I
love improv theater. Like when that little thing that Aaron was throwing me on the Once Upon a Wine was like this. You need this like every show. It's just like on something like that. It's just great to have. Like when Kevin and Mosier were reading that book, that was like their quotes, but they read the other as the other one. Yeah. That's just good stuff. That's gold.
Yeah, I mean, and without that improv that they do, whether you like it or not, we wouldn't have gotten Tusk. We wouldn't have gotten Yoga Hosers. Yeah. We probably wouldn't even be getting Mallrats 2, to be honest. Like, it's
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I believe he said Mallrats 2 is because of Tusk. Like, because Tusk was made for $3 billion, made its money back before it went to theater. They said, all right, let's make Mallrats 2, and it's obviously evolved from a movie to a TV show by now, but I mean,
is it them improv, like what are they playing, like the same characters, and it's just them still at the mall? Like,
Yeah,
Mallrats exist still.
the last time we saw the main characters in Mallrats, Brody and oh god, what was not Jason Lee's name? What was that kid's name?
No, I've seen Mallrats
Brody.
once.
Yeah, those the main characters. The last we saw, I don't think we saw Quint. It was Quint was the other guy. I don't think Quint showed up in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, but we did see Brody in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, and he was the owner of a comic book store now.
Okay.
And from what
there's like a I knew there was,
Yeah.
but you reminded me there was a Smith verse.
Yeah, he has his own, and he's his new universe, which is that Canadian Tusk, Yoga Hosers, and Moose Jaws. He's officially kind of bridging them with the View Askew universe, which I'm disappointed that he revealed this, because I feel like this move would have been like, even the biggest Kevin Smith hater would have been happy about this.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I agree.
Jay and Silent Bob are going to be in Moose Jaws, so he's bridging the gap of his two like universes that he's created here, I don't know what the point of that was. He's bridging the gap. But
you're just saying the universe has expanded into his horror action universe, basically.
yeah, and I am Tusk. I've only watched once. I need to sit down and watch again, because, this is what I think makes it a good movie, is I watched it and I said, I don't know if I liked it or I hated it. Like, it was an interesting piece of work. Like, I just don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It made me talk. Like, I talked to my buddies about it, and we've had debates about it. So I'm going to go back and watch it, because I think on second viewing, I'll actually dig it a lot more. And I just watched Yoga Hosers. They had a premiere on the 30th at one of the local theaters, so I watched it there. And like, it's very much what he says it is. It's a tween girl movie. Like, it's for teenagers and whatnot, but it's also a Kevin Smith fan movie. Like, he's made it for two audiences. And I sat there and I watched it, and I was like, wow, I mean, I like this. Like, I enjoy this movie. It's for Kevin Smith doing PG-13. I enjoy it. He promised silly, stupid things, and that's what you're getting. Like, it's kind of like, I think the perfect way he summed it up was, he made a midnight movie for teenagers. Like, it's just, I don't know. Well done might not be the right word, but for what it is, it's just really well done. And, I wish my daughter was older, because that's a movie that I would be proud to take my daughter to, when she's 10 to 13 years old, because it is showing something that is kind of becoming a thing that we see more and more in the industry, but like, it's showing, female and women being the focal point of the story and being the hero.
Yeah. And I know, that's something that is growing. And, back to what I'm just glad that Kevin is doing what he whatever he wants to. He should. That's the freedom. An artist should have that freedom, and he's worked hard to get there. And or maybe not. I mean, he apparently smokes a lot of weed to get there. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, there's two arguments there.
He came up with ideas that paved the way, and I mean, the wealthiest people in the world, the successful people, get paid to think.
Yeah.
And he thought his way to the path that he gets to build his own path, really. So
and one of the best arguments I've heard him say to people that have like kind of trashed, like, Yoga Hosers obviously isn't doing well in the reviews, and like, his defense is, well, look at Mallrats. Mallrats got worse reviews than this, and now it's a cult classic. But B, he kind of challenges people. He says, all right, go make something. Like, if you're saying this is awful, well, I made it. Like,
yeah,
it
there's
can
that
be
one where somebody threw mud in his daughter's eye.
Oh yeah, well, and I mean
terrible. But that was
great. Yeah. Oh, and that response was great. He's had a couple responses to, I mean, that was a big one. Like, that one was awful. Like, to read as a parent and be like, oh my, like, he handled that so much cooler than I would. Like, I would want a fist fight.
And that quote I mean, I was like, this is the takeaway. And it was I put that on, and I rarely ever Twitter. I just Twitter through Instagram. But it was when he said, was it basically, in a nutshell, bullying is showing your lack of creativity. You know, and you said it in so many more words, but that's essentially true. It's just whatever. If you're attacking somebody and if you're criticizing for just the sake of criticizing, and usually all that stuff is just because you're insecure anyway, and that means you're wasting energy doing that, and you're taking it out of your potential creative, aspect of your thinking. And it's are the faculties that could be creative. They're being drained by your, infuriated opinions to just criticize somebody. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, and he challenges people just to create. Like that was a whole nother argument. But like when people trash talk Yoga Hosers or any of his movies, like his recent response has been, go out there and do it. Like if it's not hard to do it, in 2016, you can go out there and do it. And if you're going to take anything from Yoga Hosers, know that if I can make this, you can make your movie. And that's, there's some truth to that. Like it's, Kevin Smith watched a movie called Slacker, or was it Slacker? Yeah, Slackers. And he made Clerks. Like, so somebody, and that for me, like years later, I even though I consider Chasing Amy my favorite.
I think Richard Linklater was Slackers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Linklater was Slackers.
Yeah. So Kevin Smith watched that and he's like, oh, you can do this? I'm going to make Clerks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's right.
And as much as Chasing Amy is the movie that I'll go to, like I'll watch that every time I see it or pop it in a DVD if I want a good cry or whatever. Like that's my Kevin Smith movie. But when I watch Clerks, or even more so now, I think what he's doing, like you said, with his new movies, he's doing what he wants to do. But like, I think the B stories of that is like, you can watch that and say, well, if Kevin Smith can put a guy in a Waller suit, or he can make a movie about well, I guess he already made a Clerks movie, but two teenage girls as clerks. So, like I can make a movie. Like I can find a way to
make a movie about people selling stuff and just talking in that place where they sell stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I think
is that what Yoga Hosers pretty much is? Essentially those two it's like a female Clerks.
No, it's a little bit more actiony than that. Like there's a whole, that's actually them sitting around talking is much like any Kevin Smith movie, kind of how it opens and closes, but in the middle, it's something completely different than Clerks was. But when he filmed them in Tusk, Harley and Lily Rose, when he was editing it, like he went to his wife and kept on saying like, why do I love this scene so much? Is it because it's my kid? Is it because they're good? What is it? And his wife said, "You're an idiot. They're clerks. Like they're sitting behind a counter at a convenience store."
Yeah.
And that's why he made Yoga Hosers, was like, oh my God. So it's kind of like an homage to Clerks. And there's even at least one or maybe two lines from Clerks that's in there. So it was, like I said, I mean, if you're a Kevin Smith fan, I think you'd like it. Yeah. But totally, I would understand. Like, it's just like Tusk. Like, it is a movie that I could understand. Like, someone could tell me, "Oh, Yoga Hosers was horrible," and I'd say, "You're right." Or someone says Yoga Hosers is great, I'd say, "You're right." Like, it all depends on how you look at the movie, really.
Yeah, it's like an abstract painting. You just kind of have to. Depends on how the light hits the sculpture, man. Yeah, you got to tilt your head. When you watch a Kevin Smith movie, sometimes just look at it upside down. Maybe you'll see something in it.
Yeah, and I mean,
I criticize it. Go make your own, your bull moose a fish movie and see if you can pull that off.
Exactly. Like that's kind of my takeaway now. Is like if I see anything that's like that just doesn't agree with me, I either think in my head. And this is just like more of an exercise for me. It's like I'll think in my head, like, what would I do to make that better? Like for instance, and this is so, and I don't think I've said this on air, but like season 5 of Once Upon a Time, I've gone on plenty of record of saying this is an awful work of television. Like this, I can't believe this is airing right now. It's just all garbage. And like my fix for it was, and I have said that this is better than season 5, but I don't think I've said that if I were to do season 5, I would do this. I would just do what you guys did with the rock opera.
Right.
Like
exactly. That's to the point, man. Go ahead and make what, like sometimes I'm inspired. I don't know. There's something I feel like, I don't know. I can't, there is something out there that I feel exactly like that about, like you could have done this instead, but instead you did this. And so I think maybe it's 60 seconds. Like I think Alice in Wonderland, instead of doing what they did, just go ahead and make it stop motion or whatever. It shouldn't have been the full CGI thing it was. But
Yeah.
I agree. It's like if you hate something so much, but you can see it. If you're a filmmaker, don't waste your time. Just don't waste your time bashing it or being, all the negative emotion. Just tame that down. Take a breather. And see if maybe you'll be inspired to. If you're seeing something different, then make that. And do it parody, do it, do it satire.
Yeah, no, and that is more than ever in 2016 is like an acceptable form of art, and to the point where I think Erin tweeted this or said it on her podcast Once Upon a Wine or something, but like people have told her that the rock opera isn't just a parody, like it's an actual film, like
it's its own thing, man.
Yeah, and it is like I finally watched it probably at this point 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, and I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this is so much better than season 5 of Once Upon a Time. Like, I can't, like, this, they hire them to do season 6 because it's insane for being a parody at heart, how much like heart and how much, energy, because I obviously know, I know some of the behind the scenes, like I know how much energy and time was put into it, but on screen you can see the heart and the talent that's there. And it is really good. It is, which I wasn't expecting to talk about this much because I want to get into your voice acting, but you were part of the rock opera. Why don't we skip ahead, I guess, a few years from Nashville to Once Upon a Time. How'd you get involved in doing the web series, the spoof web series, and then obviously the rock opera?
Well, so it just happened to be on Facebook in an actor's page, and then I saw this post from an Ace Marrero saying, "Hey, my girlfriend needs a Hercules for a webisode. Submit if you think." And I was like, maybe. And I had taken these pictures of myself. I jokingly call them selfies, but I was getting into photography to just as sort of a stepping stone to be a film director. And, meanwhile, I'm an actor as well. So I'm trying to, why not increase my port for free? So I just had these black and whites of basically fitness photos. So I sent that to them. It was like, my face wasn't even showing. So give it a shot. And then it didn't take too long. And I thought they'd waited a few days to collect some other prospects. But she said, she thinks you're perfect. And so just like, I don't know, some other details, how it goes. So, okay, cool. So we had a script reading and then I had brought my camera with me, and which was like this 60 with a big lens and 85 1.2. And because that plays into the future relationship we built. But I came in and it was funny because I came in and they weren't even engaged yet. It was that followed up about 2 months later. But I came in and then Erin opens the door and she gives me that look, sort of that up down that a girl or a guy will do to it. Yeah. And it's like, okay. And it's just like hey. She does this little the shake, like, hey. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm this what a cordial welcome here. So, but we have all that, and I remember feeling like a fish out of water because everybody seemed to know one another, and I wasn't quite sure. It's like, oh, all these people sort of know one another, and because they all came from a class. Either a class or just somewhere there were overlapping circles of either all the way back in St. Louis where they went to Stevens College, or there was a class that they took about 5 years prior, and it was all in there shooting on I think a 5D, and I was like, okay, we'll see how this turns out. And I was just looking at everything, and I was like, all right. And then when I saw the cut, I was like, and I remember leaving and thinking, man, all my stuff was pretty. I was pretty happy they set me beside Tinkerbell, which was a Barbie doll that was dressed like a Tinkerbell. And I just thought, Hercules is pretty, he's just this dude that's in here. And because I had a line that I played off of that where I say, I'm letting Prince Charming run this town. So to me, that meant, well, Hercules isn't here. He doesn't have a complex. He's just here to pick up girls. And he's not even, he doesn't care about any of this, and so it's just like, so he's got his eyes on Tinkerbell, which is just, I think it doesn't take too much to think the irony of that, just the juxtaposition of it. Just to have my arm thrown over Tinkerbell and talking to the doll. And then I just remember leaving and thinking of like my deliveries just weren't great. I do wish we could go back and redo my singing because it was a little worse than I intended on it to be, even though I really don't sing. But when I was like, no, that's grating. That's very strident. But I'm not worried about it. But I remember leaving and thinking that, man, my deliveries weren't that great. Then when I watched the cut, they edited it in such a way that they knew what was good. They had a great sense of comedy. Everybody's takes were great. It was cutting away. The lighting looked great. It was simple, but it was effect. I honestly thought that the first episode looks better. And this is not a knock on our DP that DP or Ryan that DP'd our other stuff. Everything was great. It's just that the lighting in that was lantern and Christmas light base sort of hidden, and it just all worked and gave it a warm feel that made everybody's eyes sparkle and everything. And it's just, I really liked the aesthetic of the first episode, and they cut it in such a way that I made myself laugh because they threw in the little sound effect when it's like, well, I am, and they go ding. And it's just like, that's great, dude. And it's just not because it's me, because it's just they had a sense of comedy. It's like, this is a good team of people to be in. Yeah. And so, of course, he got called on for the other 3 episodes. And Ace, because he asked me, he's like, hey, I saw you had this nice camera and everything, after the first episode. He's like, do you mind shooting some BTS, some behind the scenes stuff? And so I ended up being like their BTS guy for like almost any production I was involved in, or sometimes other productions. It's like, hey, would you come along and just shoot our behind the scenes stuff? And then I ended up shooting, I think, Aaron's sister for headshots one time, and then Cofield or Snow, and in Park City when we were at Sundance the following January. And it's like off those 2 people, then people started seeing my work on Facebook. So I started meeting other people outside the circle and all that. And then I think soon after, and then I shot our promo for the rock opera. I ended up being their photographer for like all their friends. And then, so it's funny how it's like, yeah, I met such and such, and it's like somebody they haven't seen in 5 years. And so I'm hanging out with all their friends, and they haven't seen them. So funny. I kind of feel like I came out of it from feeling like a fish out of water, and now it's like, now I'm associated with more than just that circle, but all the circles they're associated with. And that's cool. And that's the beauty of the collaborative path you walk in the film industry.
Well, and it sounds like everything I've heard about, like, what have dubbed Team West Coast when it comes to the spoof people, is that it's going back to what I said about the podcasting community. Like, it's like such a nice, tight group. Even like the fans of the rock opera and the web series, like, are all super like super intense, but in a good way. Like, they're just all really a tight group, and have become a tight group with even like, Aaron and Ace and Ami and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's been fun watching the web series grow to what it is, and seeing how it turned into this little like film. It is a film. Yeah. Like, that's. Yeah. Hell's Kitchen, tell the Defenders to move over because I got a new set of heroes coming to town. I'm bringing my late night edition of Everything is Awesome to New York City. That's right, we're going to be coming with Rachel Leishman from the Fordcast, a Harrison Ford podcast. We're going to have the Once Upon a Time Rock Opera cast on hand to sing a couple songs. We are bringing Once Upon a Wine, the podcast, along for the ride. Going to be one late night after party. That's right, the official after party to the Once Upon a Time Rock Opera screening at the Producers Club, October 7th, screening at 8 p.m. Get your tickets for that. Go to indietix.net and also get your tickets for the after party. Everything is Awesome late night with Once Upon a Wine. It is going to be a epic live podcast experience that you cannot miss. indietix.net, 10 p.m. is the after party. I cannot wait. New York City, here we come.
Don't you hope? I mean, I already have ideas. Like, Aaron, you got to do this skit or do this the sequel. I mean, what the sequel can be and what we have to incorporate in it. Do you have do you have some of your ideas what you would like to see if there is a sequel? And
I have I haven't said actually. I probably have an email back and forth with like my partner with our company. I was like, if we were to write a sequel for this, what would it be about? And it was about the kind of playing off of season 6 with the untold stories. I was like, I don't think I want to go there. And so I haven't really sat down and thought about it in a while, but I 100% like after watching the rock opera for the first time, which I said was probably about 3 months ago, if that, I instantly said there needs to be a sequel. I it's not because I kind of know you guys or anything. Like, it is better than season 5 of Once, and it needs a sequel. Yeah. Like, watching it, and I mean, I don't know if, I guess obviously it would have to play off of what we've seen already with season 5 and kind of what we know about season 6.
There's so much teleportation, and I think be like, look, we've all lost our memory, and we could just like do it again, and we could do it in the upside down and just do a play off of Stranger Things at this point.
I would, you know what? That would be an idea I would love to tinker with, is like writing the sequel to the rock opera as like something in the upside down. Like, that sounds like
an 11. I mean, 11 incorporated into and like just a bunch of kids riding down a street, like three or four kids on bicycles in the suburban sort of northwestern neighborhood.
And I know they're super busy with their Game of Thrones thing that they're doing now, but like I just talking to you about it now, I'm like, I think like it makes me want to sit down and like jot down some notes and like throw together like a quick 1-page, like, here's what I think we should do for the sequel.
Yeah.
You want me to write it?
Sure, man. Hey, man, it's like I said, the greatest filmmakers and storytellers have an open door policy to people's ideas, because no man's an island, you know.
Yeah.
But I think but you haven't seen Neverending Story, so you may not know, but I think Wolfie needs to make his screen debut, at least in the rock opera series, and he has no other role but Falkor, and we need a T-shirt that has, because do you know what Falkor is essentially?
Well, he's that big white thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, he has the face of a dog. So, you know, I've grown up. You know, I'll joke around. When I got older, I started joking around saying he's a luck puppy, but he's a luck dragon, and so with luck, you make magical things happen in the narrative of the story. But but you know, Wolfie looks like him. But I have this idea. So he promotes he if you're around Falkor, you have luck. So I want a picture of Wolfie sort of like winking on a T-shirt. There's gonna be Wolfie gets his own T-shirt and he's winking. It says you want to get lucky, and I think that's Wolfie's T-shirt is Falkor.
I love it. That's great. I think I will have to, because I've recently been busy with like other projects, and they have, for creative reasons, kind of like I've kind of pulled out. Mm-hmm. So like I've been like, all right, like I've been kicking around ideas like the next thing I want to do besides like podcast. Like, obviously this, like we did a live show of this podcast for the Philadelphia Podcast Fest, which was great. I had such a fun time doing it. We were invited back to do a show in November for another venue. I'm trying to get, you know, some other stuff going in between now and then. But so like, whereas I'm trying to build this brand at the same time, I really like, this isn't my full creative outlet. Like, it's like, well, it's great. I sit around and talk to people, but like, that's not me writing fiction, basically.
No. Well, this helps inspire that as well.
Yeah.
It's another catalyst to it all.
Yeah, to the point of I think my next project might be trying to write a sequel to the rock opera, because I've like
Did you see that fan art today?
Oh yes, I did.
That was
Insane.
beautiful. Who was that?
It was. I can pull it up on Twitter right now, but it was.
I'm listening to you. I'm pulling it up.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah. Just the projects. Like I just want to write is like my big thing. I want to write and direct is like where I kind of want to go. And Crude Humor Studios, which is our like production company, we had a very small hand in like helping put together the rock opera, as in we did the website, and I think that like we got it in association with credit on the rock opera for that. So I would love to be involved for like a potential sequel, and I think like after their Game of Thrones thing is kind of like the time to do it, because I'm assuming by then season 6 and or the series of Once Upon a Time will probably be over. So like there could be one last hurrah for like the Owe It spoof to play off of like recent events.
Because that's what the beauty of parody is. Like you just catch whatever's currently going on. That's why look at the Lego Movie. All these parodies that have succeeded, and Mel Brooks films and just it does so well. And there's a way to do it. I think you can watch the Scary Movie series and see how you can do it too cutely. Sure they make their money, but there's a great way to do it that's smart and sort of a nice cheeky way to do it. And then there's the just sort of where it just falters and falls flat. It's like it's delivery and just how you structure it all. But the person who put up the art, which is it's of Ami and Mallory and Ace and Aaron, and it's just beautiful little pencil piece. It's some semi minimalistic and just a sketch. It was great. And it's Francesca Benevento. It's probably Francesca Benevento, and it's Zia Franny. So Zia Franny. And she's an artist for sure.
Yeah, and I saw that probably about a half hour before we hopped on doing the show. So I saw that, and I was like, oh my God, it's insanely nuts at how like the one that's like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is a fan base of Jennifer Morrison, and you forget, I almost forget now that Aaron and Jennifer Morrison look almost exactly alike, right. Because like everyone is nailed, like they all look like who they really are, and also kind of like their ABC counterparts. It's nuts how well that pencil is done.
They really do. And actually, I'm looking at this, and this does remind me of some '80s art, and there might be a Stranger Things piece of art that this looks like.
You know what? She did. Maybe it was she. She also did Lana Perella as the queen. That's the other piece I saw her do.
Could be. It's amazing how it's beautiful, dude. I hope everybody gets a canvas of this. I really like it.
It is, and that's it's nuts that ABC/Disney's art inspired the Owe It spoof series and rock opera, which also is now inspired a lot of, because I'm sure there's more than that that's the most recent thing that I've seen, but it's an like the spoof series has its own fandom that includes some of the cast, it seems, of the original stuff. So it's just nuts like how that trickle down inspiration works. I don't know, it's I really I'm so glad for everything that's happened for everyone out there, because like I remember like the hustle for the web series 3 or 4 years ago, to the point now where it almost seems like they can't keep up with like everyone talking about it, basically.
That's ultimately it's essentially what you want for anything you've made before.
Yeah.
And I know we all have things that, but if like it's a Clerks 2 essentially, to have a sequel to something you just made, and you're like, well, I have all these other ideas and these other things that I really need to get on. So we will build, or Aaron and whoever else wants to just supply her with ideas. I think she would love us, to get a script. She's like, here, I wrote your rock opera. Even though essentially she's a writer, I think, well, it's a collaborative effort as well.
Yeah.
Spielberg he'll have lunches with, multiple writers that give him ideas on a story, and he will use that for his film. Apparently, that's what I'm told.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, and that's a great strategy. But I'm just saying that there's nothing wrong with, as a writer, to still use other people's ideas that are adopting them, and then
no, I mean for the longest time that was how I was going to build a brand, was like, let me just parody everything, and we've moved away from that to wanting to create some more original stuff, but it's also, we're in this world now where, like, okay, some of us can commit. Like, at first I couldn't commit because I had little babies, and now that they're a little bit older, it's like, all right, I can start committing to, like, devoting time to this stuff. And like my friends are like, well, we just got married and we're gonna have kids soon, so, like, all right, well, now we're stuck in this thing, and that's, we talked about improv for a little bit later. It's something that I'm hoping to, I'm going to take an improv class hopefully within the next couple months. I'm going to sign up for one. And, like, if for nothing else, like, I would love that learning experience, because I do love improv. And it's something I learned doing my live show is that, the monologue is nothing but doing stand up. And I'm awful at that. Like, I learned that in my live show, didn't get many laughs, but I got more laughs when I sat down and had a conversation. So I was like, all right, well, if I had, improv, is more about playing off of other people. So if I have that, like, I probably would be much more successful in that. If nothing else, like, I'll also meet more people to, like, all right, let's build something. Let's do something creative together.
Never say no to an experience that, it tills the soil, basically. And it fires off different neurons in the brain. Yeah. That's why it's beneficial to, if, pick up an instrument, at least try it. And, it forces you into a different language, basically, because that's what it is. They're all languages. These take some Tai Chi or or just some type of martial art and self-defense, and take a sculpting class. Go paint some alabaster somewhere, and it just it works. Get your hands and feet dirty. You get one shot at this. Go for it, man. And so take some improv. And I'm not saying and you're a funny guy. I listen to you, and you're loose, and so you're a good conversationalist. So go for it. And if you feel like you fell the first time, absolutely don't let that make you.
No, because for instance, I consider our first live show with this show, at least half of it was a failure, and that was where I was standing up talking the whole time. But that, like, somehow I was booked to do another live one without begging somebody, and that was a learning experience. Like, it was, all right, I know what works, I know what doesn't. Like, let's build off that. Let's find a new way to do the late night theme that I want to keep, but let's do it better. And I absolutely, I am a huge believer in, like, failing is just one step closer to success. Like, you fail to succeed.
Always, man. The most successful people are the biggest failures.
Yeah. And I mean, there's not many times that I've failed at something, at least creatively, that I've been like, oh, well, shit, I'm never going to do that again. It's always been like, all right, let me put that to the side. I'll get back to it and figure out how I can improve it and whatnot. And podcasting is probably the perfect example of that. I've probably in 9 years have hosted 9 to 11 different podcasts in that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one where I definitely have the most success. I've definitely I'm the most rewarded with, and I for the most part have the most fun with. Like, the only thing that I think would be more fun than this would be something like Smodcast, where I am sitting down with somebody doing improv basically at a table for an hour, or even like something that's big now in podcasting is sitting down and playing tabletop role-playing games. And that's something that I've played maybe a handful of times, but all it is improv. Like, I listen to like 3 or 4 of them and I laugh. Like, I cry laughing at almost every single one I listen to, because when they do it for the purpose of making people laugh. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh God, that would be like probably the perfect podcast, is like me sitting around goofing off, playing a game, but telling jokes at the same time. Like, that would probably be the most fun. Also the hardest to get together and put together. So I'll be happy with what I have right here because
Sure, but
it's
work
working.
towards that, and yeah,
Yeah.
I think that I'd love to listen to that.
Yeah, it's all like we said, failing upwards. I think we have the name of our episode this week, failing upwards, failing to
Going
succeed.
upwards. Yep.
So real quick before I let you go, I want to talk about your voiceover work because that is something that I got a brief glimpse of, like just kind of scrolling down your Twitter feed when you first followed me and saw the Joker stuff that you did, which was fantastic, by the way.
Thanks.
And then you talked a little bit about it in on Once Upon a Wine, and you mentioned a couple things. I think the biggest the biggest thing that I heard you say that like clicked out to me was Square, and because they're the makers of Final Fantasy, which is. I mentioned earlier, like video games have been an inspiration to me. Specifically, Final Fantasy, like that's like a dream thing to do, is like make a live action Final Fantasy movie of some sort. So that has always been a huge inspiration to me. So let's talk about your voice acting career. How'd you get into that?
Well, it was back when I was in Nashville, and you get a lot of people. I don't remember the moment or any of that. I just remember people saying that I should get into it, and it was after after a long time of people saying you need to be they just think, oh, do you sing? I was like, no, I don't sing, and saying, how many times I heard us saying you sound like Josh Turner. I was like, I don't know who that is, and then I quickly learned, but then it had to come from within. I had to want to do it. And so I looked at it and then I started to, and then my best friend who had just moved to town, and it's weird. Like right when I saw him, I was like, hey, I like this dude. And we're like personality wise, we were twins and so we were, these couple of nice guys and that just, got along well with everybody. Easygoing, open-minded, artistic, sort of just, we're different, but then alike each other, and just sort of stood out from the crowd a little bit, just because of the way we thought. But anyway, his dad ended up being he moved there because they had a headphone and microphone business, and his dad designed all of the stuff and built it in factory right there in Nashville. And the company name was Equation Audio, and I still use their high-end microphone to this day. That's what I'm talking on right now, the F20. And cool. It's a condenser mic that's that one that beat out the Neumann and the high-end Sony at the time on a double blind study. And at least, I mean, that's what they told me. I'd believe it. It's a great microphone. Anyway, it was like all the stuff that meant to happen, and it's just like, I think somewhere there was just that, along with just the amalgamation of encouragement and plus my own seeking voiceover and the video game industry was gradually on the rise there as far as, but I thought, okay, anime and video games, because that's where you get the real acting. Because when you thought of acting and voiceover, you thought commercials, promos, movie trailers, and movie trailers was on its way down, and Don LaFontaine, the father of all that stuff. He had passed away just 3 months before I moved to Los Angeles. Okay. And that guy worked, I think, nearly 4,000 gigs a year. And just things, but that was still they were very much still in the analog world before where you go. So he was in his limo going to studios. He was also a very cool cat as well, because if he knew you wanted to be a voiceover, he'd like give you a day in the life of Don LaFontaine, apparently. I mean, he's just that kind of guy, very affable and open to, he was very gregarious. And, so just the amalgamation of just that formula of, being in certain company and being given the tools. I mean, because they gave me the headphones and the microphone and everything. And I just had this, and so I was like, oh, I'm going to start working on it. I researched it, and I saw that, that the acting, so like I was saying, video games is on the rise, and like I said, I never saw myself as, I didn't want to be a Disney actor or any of that. And to the guy who makes silly voices, it's just not my thing. My hat goes off to those people who are able to pull that stuff off. I mean, there's the Jess Harnell and Rob Paulson and, Bill Farmer. Bill Farmer's Goofy and Rob Paulson's Yakko and Pinky and Jess is Wacko from all cool, great people, very talented, very great actors as well. But just wasn't my bag. So it's like video games, that's where the acting is. I mean, I watch them sometimes when I have the time, and I don't play them. I'd love to, but it's just don't have the resources and the time to really devote to all that. So I can just watch them because they're basically movies anyway. The Last of Us, the Arkham series, it's the best Batman story I've ever seen. Is the Arkham series.
Yeah,
and it's
100%.
great casting. And you start looking at them just as that. You're like, okay, I want to play that role. Today I'm going over a script. It's independent, this very good science fiction post-apocalyptic game that it's a nearly 80-page script, and that's just it. It's a video game, but it has an 80-page script to it. So and you think no second thought to it until you bring it up and kind of look at it in retrospect. It's like it wasn't anything like that, but that's just it. So I want to be an on-camera actor and a filmmaker. But the most accessible route for me to take is the first, say, big check or just the first sort of nugget of, whatever success is. I mean, I quantify success to progress because there is no finish line. So as long as you're progressing each day, you're succeeding as long as you're moving forward. And that's a part of following up. But But I just knew that if I'm going to, the most accessible way to me to pursue this acting career is voiceover first. And video games is sort of my focal point because that exercises my theatrical muscle. Because I get to be anything and anybody. But remember, it's still, you're in the room in a different world or whatever you may be doing, you're still acting. It's just nobody can see you. But you do get to, sometimes to be you can be a dragon or just the myriad of things you get to be. And and it's not just having a cool voice or a certain kind of voice. It's like that will match somewhere, but it's just like being pretty on film doesn't mean. I mean, you look at some of the best actors. I think it's about being interesting, and then you have also as far as the aesthetics go. But so having that sort of reflects them, but it just comes down to acting. And remember, there is music in your performance. So there's always music there. It has to be musical. Just let the emotion be there. And if you feel it and you actually see things around you. So, I mean, that I get to do that. I get to create worlds around me and I know I'll go through a few takes and I'm still reading it or I'm still trying to manipulate the emotion into the read and like saying, because I know all the points. Oh, well, that's supposed to be read here. Or they probably want it read this lifted and this dipped down. And this is supposed to be dark and dramatic. Stop all that. Figure out the backstory to that character and just know what situation are they coming out of and what are they going into. So what are their thoughts and what are they feeling? And that's what you do for film. And now I get to do that for just, in my studio right behind my microphone. And so you asked me what got me into it. So that's it. Just the idea that it is acting and that I had to want to do it and sort of the constant people telling me about maybe 10 years ago. And I've been a student of it ever since and then actively doing it for the past 3-4 years as a profession.
It is a profession of acting that I really enjoy and you're right. I mean, a lot of the things that are really story driven that I think are great don't always come from live action movies or television. Like you said, the Arkham universe, like those stories are really great. Or even like going to animation. Like I think everyone argues that Heath Ledger is our best Joker. I argue that Mark Hamill is our best Joker.
Yeah, people are quick to say that are fans of the animated series.
Yeah, I consider my Batman to be Michael Keaton, but that doesn't mean Nicholson is my Joker.
Hmm.
I think Mark Hamill, when I read, and it's not often that I read a comic book these days, but when I do sit down and read a Batman comic book, when I read it, I typically hear, when I'm reading a Joker story, I hear Mark Hamill's voice. I tend to hear probably Kevin Conroy's voice, to be honest, when I read Batman, but I imagine him as Keaton, how Keaton would act. But yeah, I mean, and the really good voice actors, like I remember that more than anything. Like, you always remember a voice, no matter, if it's a cartoon or a video game or even just a live action thing. Like, there's been plenty of instances where I've watched a film, heard someone speak and say, I know that person, but I don't know from where, I don't know their name, whatever. The voice is, I mean, that is every bit of important to acting than just, the actual emotions of it.
I used to have a friend, my ex-girlfriend used to bring up the point that like almost all actors who had longevity in their career had a voice that stood out.
Yeah.
And I don't think she was necessarily saying it from I don't know, it might have been, but she was just saying it as a genuine encyclopedic thought. And just like that, it's just, you look at it and look at the most, and it's true. Look at most actors. They have there's a texture in their voice. I mean, of course, we have the audio now that picks all that stuff up, but it is you find people who are aesthetically pleasing that you can tell their voices have hurt their career, or at least it wasn't as strong as it could have been. I think Keanu could have hit it stronger earlier on if he didn't have the surfer voice going on.
Yeah.
And but I mean, of course, it's inarguable that he's had a successful career, but he hit the right script. Of course, that goes for a lot of people, but I just think in his position, I mean, he's great, and I love watching him in Speed, and I think Point Break is that's his role. And then then he got very fortunate with The Matrix, and he deserves more than all that stuff. But then I look at Winona Ryder. I love her to death, but she's got this husky voice that didn't reflect her image.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of kept her out of certain roles, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And but I look at Idris Elba, and I look at Chris Hemsworth, and it's just these nice, strong voice. Russell Crowe, that's what helps carry him. Mel Gibson, same thing. It goes on. I mean, even Tom Hanks, he has a nice narrator voice it's very nasal, but at the same time, there's a uniqueness to all these people and their voices, and it's funny how that's sort of a fulcrum to it all. That and just the confidence behind the eyes. If you can put confidence behind the eyes as an actor, nothing can stop you.
Yeah. And that goes, I think, for anything. Confidence in anything is because, we talked about wrestling at some point tonight. And like when I used to do it, I was trained. I used to go and talk on a mic, hit people with chairs, all that fun stuff. And it's
amazing. Chairs, like just random people in the street.
Yeah, just random people in the street. I hit them in a chair, and they'd say, "What'd I do?" And I drop an elbow on them and say,
"Crazy Kevin kid coming at me with his lawn chair again."
But yeah, I mean, like that is nothing different than me sitting in the middle of a ring talking on a mic than me standing in front of a crowd at a bar talking on a podcast. But there was confidence in the ring where people, like, I was not nervous. I was able to, quote unquote, deliver my lines and make an impact and get the reaction I wanted. Whereas super nervous during, leading up to the podcast, and that showed tenfold, and you could hear it in my voice. I had the nervous cough as I was talking, and it's confidence in any walk of life will help you in any situation.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. I mean, the confidence is the driving force underneath everything, whether it's whatever, because you have to believe, you have to be the person with the most faith in yourself. Mm-hmm. If you don't, then that it registers through your language and the way you talk, and your body language and the way you carry yourself. So it's very, very important and everything.
All right. before we let you go, I have to put you to work a little bit. You got to give me a little, and I'll type it in the little chat room. But you got to give me. I'm not going to type it in the chat room because my mouse isn't working. You got to give me a little. You're listening to Everything Is Awesome on awesomepodcast.com in whatever kind of voice you want to do.
All right. Well, okay. I got to take the phones off for that. So, how about I give you a few voices?
Okay, go for it.
Everything is awesome. Everything is awesome. Everything is awesome. And hang on, let me test this out. Robin. Everything is awesome.
Oh, that's the one right there.
All right. I'll take a few warm-ups.
Well,
Had
thank
to give
you.
a few options. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
can
Thank
you
you for
still
being
hear
on
me?
the show.
Sure, man. Sure.
Is there anything happening in your world that you want to let the people know about?
No. Well, I mean, I got to think about. You asked me what happened yesterday. I don't remember. It's just so much. As far as just voiceover, hopefully, I don't know. I'm working on this video game that's in Denmark, and I mentioned that on the Once Upon a Wine podcast, and then I'm looking forward to that role. And I got the script that landed in my way, and I think they want like a Steve Bloom type of character for the lead. And so it's like Steve Bloom, he's done, I don't know. He's one of those guys. Do you ever watch Rebels, Star Wars Rebels? I don't.
Here and there, yeah.
He plays the alien in the group. And so
Okay.
he plays he has more anime credits than I think any other actor out there.
Oh.
And more video games too. But he's a really nice and cool guy. But anyway, they want a voice like him, and he's one of my guys that I have a voice like. So it's just like, all right, all I got to do is bring out the performance. So so just hopefully more video games. And I think I just narrated, this morning I woke up and I was booked as a teddy bear in a Cthulhu noir game. that talks like an old worn out British man.
That's fantastic.
He's talking, it's kind of dark too. He's like, oh, you know how this goes. Some 8-year-old will get beat by her drunk father, and then she'll want to console herself and take it out on me by ripping out my buttons and my legs off and then slashing open my belly. And then she'll get kidnapped by some cult, and then I'll wind up in the trash. End of story. And then she'll die. And it's just like, this is coming from a teddy bear. This is awesome.
It's like an even darker version of Ted. Like I guess Ted's the comedy version of a dark teddy bear, and this is like the dark version.
Ted 3 when Ted doesn't laugh, when the laughter stops.
Ted 3 when the laughter stops. That's got to be the third movie.
All the stuffing is pulled out now. All stuffing pulled out.
Where can people find you on the internet?
I am Rogue Wolf Artist. Rogue Wolf Artist is ROGUE Artist, Wolf Artist, on Twitter and Instagram. I have a few Instagram handles, but just go to that one. It attaches to all the other ones. And then Daniel Pierce on Facebook. And if you just and then on SoundCloud, I think I'm Rogue Wolf Artist VO on that, and Vimeo. I have a Vimeo page as well.
And if you want to listen to him to Daniel doing excellent voices, the other day I went through a bunch of whatever I found on your Twitter feed, or maybe it was on your SoundCloud. I just started listening to a bunch of them. The Joker, the Suicide Squad version of the Joker. As much as I don't think I like that version of the Joker,
right? Yeah.
Oh my God, that voice! It sounds like Jared Leto. It was spot on. Loved it so much.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm still working on my own Joker, because everybody here wants to be the Joker, but everybody trusts us. They even the people who know better, they imitate Hamill's, and it's great. But the idea is like, well, you got to put your own unique stamp.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of Hamill, but take a little bit of here and there too.
No,
Same
and there's
for Batman's Kevin Conroy.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so-
I enjoy. I forget who was. There was a kid. I think his name was Troy. Maybe
Troy
there was
Baker.
Yeah, he did the
No
Joker.
small name here, so
Oh,
he's quite the formidable talent. Him and Nolan North are the two biggest video game actors.
yeah. And he did a version of the Joker, right?
Mm-hmm. He did the
Yeah.
Arkham Origins.
Yeah, and
Joker. He did pretty spot on as Hamill.
yeah. I dug it. But maybe it was because it was Hamill. He was trying to emulate Hamill. Maybe that's why I dug it so much.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, no, I'm all for unique spins on the Joker, which is just because I think Hamill is the best. I mean, I obviously it's hard. I mean, it's also hard to say that Heath Ledger's wasn't the best portrayal because they are two very different Jokers. So
Very much.
yeah, I mean, putting a unique spin on anything is, as building up, just build up what from the past to make it your own.
That's what they want. Everybody just wants
Yeah.
what can you bring?
Yeah.
Make it because no one else can do it. You can do it.
Yeah. So, well, all right. Thank you for doing the show again. It was a lot of fun talking to you. A lot of
Dude,
fun.
yeah. Thanks for having
learning
me.
about
and-
you.
and,
Yeah. Anytime you want to, be on the show again, I feel like we just scratched the surface as far as like you as a person, as a actor, filmmaker. I feel like we didn't get too much into it. So anytime you want to be on the show again, you have something to promote or whatever, let me know. If I run out of guests, I'll be sure to let you know.
I'll be a
so-
guest. Anytime. Just call upon me, man. Send out the bat signal.
Send out the best
I'll
signal.
be there.
Ah, yes. For Everything is Awesome, you're listening to Everything is Awesome on awesomepodcast.com. We'll catch you next time right here. I say it a lot, awesomepodcast.com. We've been awesome.
We've been awesome.
Yes.